dramatic upheaval looming in the future. But now we come to an even more famous visionary, a 20th century American, some called the sleeping prophet. Those who claim to be prophets often appear to have much in common. Childhood visions of beautiful women, the power to heal or project into the future. One man who claimed to hold these gifts was an American named Edgar Cayce. Cayce may have been history's most accurate and most documented psychic, but in everyday life he was a humble man whose powers were often as much a burden as a gift.
What to call Edgar Cayce has always been a problem. I don't think that Edgar Cayce himself would have chosen the title of prophet that carries so much sense of importance, and Edgar Cayce was not a man to be self-important.
Dad considered his ability as a gift from God to help people, and that's what he wanted to do.
Born in rural Kentucky in 1877, Edgar Cayce began showing remarkable qualities even as a boy.
When Edgar Cayce was young, he had kind of an unusual ability. He told his mother that he communicated with his dead grandfather, and to him this was not unusual at all.
Edgar Cayce did have a boyhood vision. He was off playing in the woods in a place that was his own private place to get away and think about things. And he heard a voice. Edgar, Edgar.
Edgar looked up into the sky and saw a vision of a beautiful woman.
Edgar, what is it you'd most like to do with your life?
I don't know. Help people? I want to help people.
That decision on Edgar Cayce's part as a young boy really set a tone for his life. It was shortly after that he was having a very difficult time with his spelling lessons.
He wasn't a very good student, and my grandfather, his father, was calling out his spelling words one time, and he couldn't spell them very well.
A-B-L-I-N?
Wrong. Try again.
Cabin. C-A-B-B-A-N.
Wrong. Read it again. One way or another, you're going to get through this tonight.
He heard a voice, and it was the voice of the same woman who had appeared to him in the woods. Edgar, sleep, and we shall help you. And he lay down with his head on his spelling book.
Wake up. Let's try one more time. Spell cabin.
C-A-B-I-N. The word after that is D-R-A-G-O-N-F-L-Y, dragonfly, and pseudonym, P-S-E-U-D-O-N-Y-M. That word's on page 48. It's like I can see every page of the book now.
Years passed. Young Edgar Cayce married his childhood sweetheart, Gertrude Evans, and settled down to raise a family. But in 1901, his mysterious gift would come back to haunt him.
He lost his voice for a year and a half, and he'd been examined by doctors, specialists.
At that time, hypnosis was a kind of new fad, and someone suggested, well, why don't you try hypnosis? You've tried everything else.
Put in a deep hypnotic trance, Cayce restored his voice in what witnesses report to be an astonishing cure. In the years to come, he would again call upon this strange healing power to apparently restore his young son's eyesight and save his wife from near-fatal tuberculosis.
That was the confirmation he needed in order to go about the work of helping other people. My wife got well. My son got well. How can I possibly turn anybody else away who comes to see me?
As word spread of his power, a number of doctors began secretly writing to him for help with their most baffling cases. As a child, Edgar Cayce had said that he wanted to help people. At last, he had found his calling.
When Edgar Cayce would give a reading, he would go into a small study with his wife, Gertrude, and his secretary, Gladys Davis, and he would literally go into a sleep state, when his eyelids began to flutter. Then his wife Gertrude would read the suggestion for the person receiving a reading.
You have before you the body of Laura Blythe, who was in Chicago at 2450 Lincoln Avenue. You will go over this body carefully and tell me the conditions you find.
Then there would be a pause. And it was as if during this time, Casey was literally going to the person's address to where they lived, even though it may have been hundreds of miles away.
We are on State Street, past Wacker. Now we are on Lincoln Avenue, 2-story house. The kitchen, something is burning. We are in an attic. Nice red pajamas. Now we have the body.
He would go through every major system of the body and identify where the problems lie.
We are inside, through the nerves, into the arteries, the heart, the lungs, the liver. We have infection in a leg.
Laura has a bad sore on her leg that is terribly festered. She has a fever, is now bedridden. The doctors want to amputate.
Yes, they are in pain. Thy lesion is from the bite of a tiny brown spider 4 months ago while sleeping.
What is the treatment for cure and relief of this body?
Apply oil of smoke for 2 weeks. Will save our leg. Bancroft Pharmacy, Chicago. Back shelf. Top right side. Oil of smoke.
No oil of smoke. I'm afraid you're out of luck. That was an old patent medicine. Company went bust about 1915. Yeah.
So they did a so-called check reading where they would ask again about a situation. And the response, in essence, was, yes, they do too have it. It's behind the blue bottle. And the response came, found it where you said it was. It's on the way.
Not everyone was pleased with Casey's methods. Several doctors inside the medical establishment set out to prove him a fraud.
One of them said that they would prove that Edgar Casey was not in a trance, so they took a needle and they poked it through his cheek and took a scalpel and literally tore off his small fingernail. No response, again, from Casey. Casey woke up in absolute agony and vowed that he would never again try to prove anything to any professionals again. That was his first and last public demonstration of his psychic ability.
Written off as lost causes by medical science, many patients turned to Casey as their last hope.
There was a health reading that Casey gave for a woman who was told that she was clinically insane. She was in an institution. In the reading, Casey said an impacted wisdom tooth was impinging the nerves that were governing the brain's activity. They literally sent a dentist into the institution, pulled the tooth. Of course, the attending physician said it's not going to make a bit of difference. Within several days, she walked out, and she was perfectly fine. After he had diagnosed the patient, said, "We are through for the present," that meant for his wife, who was conducting the reading, to give him the suggestion to wake up.
We no longer have the body. We are through for the present.
Now, perfectly relaxed. Your body healthy. Wake up.
Casey never remembered what had been said during a reading.
Did we get it?
Maybe, but something's very queer. After inflammation of the spleen, pancreatitis, the reading just broke off midway.
The reading had been mysteriously cut short. Days later, they would find out why. In a distant city, Casey's gravely ill patient had died midway through the reading. While in a deep trance, Casey seemed to travel through time and space and tap into the power to heal. But awake, he was often a prisoner of his power.
Edgar Casey was very psychic in the conscious state, and I think it was more of a burden than anything else.
He wouldn't play cards. I mean, he would play games, but he tried not to play. He said it was too easy for him to read the hand.
First up will be the 3 of clubs, then the ace of spades, the 4 of hearts, the queen of diamonds.
You couldn't get away with anything. You couldn't lie to him. He knew what you'd done, and pretty soon I didn't try.
Not only was Casey known as a mind reader, it was reported he could also see a person's life force, an aura of light surrounding the living.
Do you have any idea what that wretched Fitzgerald woman across the street just said to me?
I see a red aura all around you. Please come back when you're not quite so angry.
His ability to see auras at one time saved his life. He was in a department store in New York City. He was about to step into an elevator. He always saw these color patterns surrounding the bodies of people around him. It was a natural thing for him.
As Casey recounted this story, he was a man hovering between the world of the living and the dead.
Well, when these elevator doors parted, he noticed that there were not the particular color patterns surrounding these people.
Going down.
He instantly knew he wasn't going to get on the elevator. The cable on the elevator snapped, and all of the people that were in the elevator were subsequently killed.
From his deep trance state, Casey began reporting snapshots of the future. They were a byproduct, side remarks made unconsciously during his medical readings, but they were prophecy nonetheless.